Person I never met, you looking to buy Night Vision?
Oh, I'd love to buy some Night Vision. What do you got? Tell me all about it.
I got this, and I got that, and I got this and that.
Well, which one does what does it do?
Well, these are cool because they're two of these things, and that's cool because it's one of them.
They're tactical, so that's cool.
Yeah.
I see that. I don't see very much Velcro. There's no multicam.
No, you don't need it with
How
these.
much? No?
No.
Not at all. Interesting. So what, I mean, I can see in the dark, though, obviously. That's
Of course,
the thing.
yeah.
What are we talking on price?
Well, it just depends on the options. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, like
Yeah,
a
what are
car.
you looking for?
I want the undercoat for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely need that.
What are you looking for?
Well, I want to see in the dark. I want to see in the dark well.
Okay,
That'll do it. This'll do it all.
that'll do it all.
Propane purged?
Sure.
Yeah? No,
Yeah.
I heard on the internets
Okay.
that the tubes have to be propane purged, or you don't.
Yeah,
I'm not-
it's
I'm not
that.
high
It has
quality.
that. I'm positive
Okay.
it has
And
that.
what is? Do you know? Is this on the Space Force contract? Is that what?
They're going
they're
on
go-
that
they're-
contract. Not
okay.
yet. It
That's what
hasn't
they're
been
looking at.
decided yet. But
Lightweight.
since they're doing the propane purge, they're thinking about it.
Well, yeah, and that makes perfect
Yeah.
sense. I mean, for space.
Yeah.
So,
So,
all right. Well, I guess I'm sold. We need to look at, I guess, accessories.
yeah,
probably.
there's some stuff with it, you know. Yeah, there's like a bag, a cable, you know, something else.
Is the bag multicam? I mean, I feel like
You know what? For you, I'll make sure the
I
bag
feel
is
like
multicam.
if I'm gonna make a big purchase, I
Yeah.
need multicam to be involved.
Well, that's the best part of it. They come in a multicam bag, so you don't need a multicam this.
Right. Perfect.
So it's the options. Yeah, and it has like something called FOM. I don't know what that is.
Oh yeah. What is the FOM?
It has it. That's all I know.
It's inside it.
Yeah, FOM is
Okay.
inside
Well, as
there.
long as there's FOM inside.
yeah.
What about the signal to noise ratio?
Oh, it's there. It's good.
It's built into the FOM.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to go. Whatever the ratio is, it's going to be right where you need it.
Good deal.
Yeah.
I like it.
Also, they film it, unfilm it, then they film it again, then they triple unfilm it.
That sounds like the best way to go. Really.
That's what I was told. You know.
And these are green or white?
Well, they're white, but they can be green if you switch this right
Oh,
here.
turn that knob?
Yeah, turn
Okay,
that.
perfect.
It'll be green if you wanted to.
Good deal.
I'm telling you, it's high dollar stuff.
I'm sold. Yeah. Let me get my checkbook.
Welcome, everybody. I have James Miksch with me, really good friend of mine, and he is our subject matter expert on Night Vision. Today, we thought we'd do a shop talk series on some Night Vision products. I know this is the item out there a lot of people run, civilian, military, law enforcement, and all combinations. And we are distributors, so we have sold obviously devices and stuff like that to agencies and also individuals. So, but there's a lot of questions we get with Night Vision, and some questions I cannot answer because that's why we have a subject matter expert. And I've sat through James's many of the Night Vision training classes, and I still haven't retained the information because there's a lot to go through. But kind of what we're talking about is that James has heard the story. We get a lot of story, people asking questions, and there's certain types of technical terms, and he's here to break it down because we're just going to kind of go a light intro into Night Vision and some of those terms and what they mean. And this is going to be obviously a 3-part video series because after, we'll get into kind of the basics right now, and then to accessories, and then also application onto a range. But yeah, so James.
Yeah, man, we'll use expert loosely, I guess, but
Okay.
there are a lot of options out there with Night Vision, and there's some basic things you need to understand. And so I think what we'll do is just kind of cover down on the different types of systems there are, and then some of the stuff with the internals. So just to jump right into it, I guess you can decide on whether you want monocular, that's a single piece, a binocular, or a clip-on piece, and there's also standalone pieces that are a lot like a clip-on piece that would actually be the optic themselves, right? So this would clip on in front of your day optic.
Okay, and that's for 10 power, right?
So depending on the system, this one in particular could be used from about 4 power up to about 12 power.
Oh, wow,
It really
okay.
shines 8 to
Yeah.
10 power for sure.
Okay.
That's like, you get above 8 power, that's somewhat subjective, right? And it also depends on the day optic you're putting in front of. So we can talk more about clip-on in just a second, but essentially, when you're talking about night vision, you may hear night vision also called I squared. I squared stands for image intensification, which is really the magic that happens inside a night vision piece, right? So an image intensification tube, and you hear about tubes all the time. You talk about single tube systems, dual tube systems. The tube is really the bread and butter of the system. You can...
what I've seen in online is when people advertise certain night vision, they'll say I'm sure some of you guys seen it too. It will announce a brand of particular tube.
Right.
And so so they'll say it has this type of tube, which inherits a certain type of price point because of that specific tube.
Exactly, and there's a couple of tube manufacturers in the U.S.
Yeah.
There's offshore tube manufacturers. It really depends on what price point you're looking in, what quality you're trying to get out of it, stuff like that. Which manufacturer you want to be building that tube. So certain manufacturers have certain technologies. L3 Harris, they manufacture an unfilmed tube, which is really high quality. That's going to get you to some of the higher FOM ratings. So FOM, or figure of merit, is one of the key terms you need to know when you're looking at night vision.
Remember that? Let's put a little thing.
Little
figure
asterisk there.
of merit. What is it?
Figure of merit.
Figure of merit.
Figure
FOM.
of
I've heard,
merit.
Like
FOM.
I'm telling you, people ask me what's the FOM rating. I'm like, look, dude, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call somebody.
Right.
So that's good, but that's the
Well,
whole thing.
there's only one way to go with FOM, and that's to get more complicated. And so you have the signal to noise ratio.
Gotcha.
Is one of the factors in determining FOM. So you have signal to noise ratio multiplied by your center resolution, and that's just a generic number called FOM, or figure of merit, that is a way to judge night vision tubes against other night vision tubes.
Okay.
And so that's a great term to know. Your signal to noise ratio, your center resolution. Both those can usually be found on a tube sheet if your system comes with a tube sheet, or you can kind of take the manufacturer's word for it depending on what you're buying and where you're buying it from.
Okay.
So that gets you to the quality of your tube essentially. And you can have those FOM ratings. They can go from 1,100 to 4,000. I mean, you can really have a broad range. You're not going to see 4,000, but the higher the better.
Higher the better.
better. So what you're doing is you're getting more resolution, not unlike a TV. You're getting better resolution, and you're getting a clearer, crisper, cleaner image out of that signal to noise.
So that's basically higher the FOM rating, more clear the image is going to be.
Exactly. And so a lot of times when you say signal to noise to somebody, you'll hear, oh yeah, no, I have a night vision system, or I was around one and I turned it on and you could hear it whine. That's not signal to noise.
Gotcha.
That noise has nothing to do with it. Noise is more like static on a TV or something along those lines. It has to do with the clarity of the image, though.
Okay.
And so, not to get too far in the weeds on the technical terms or what you need to know, just understand that you want to know the FOM rating of a system you're buying, and you want the highest FOM rating you could get.
So I'm sure there's like an app on your iPhone that you could put on there that's going to tell you what the FOM rating is, or is there like a very complex?
Not at all. Very complex equipment that tests that and tells you exactly what it is. And so you kind of have to take the manufacturer's word for it. Okay. That's the other thing, is the tube that's inside the system will have a serial number of its own, and that serial number will be tied back to a tube sheet that has all that data from the testing protocol.
Okay.
It's not like anything else in our industry, or not unlike anything else in our industry. And we've talked about this a lot, where you have a specification, and that specification is what it is. That just means that a given system or a given product is built to what someone wanted out of that product. And so you may have a system that has a really high FOM rating, but then they didn't really care too much about black spots that are in it. And so a lot of times somebody will look through a night vision tube, an image intensification tube, and see black spots, and they'll think that that's a negative. What it really is just a byproduct of manufacturing it. Now, it can be a negative, and as far as it gets into your field of view and distracts you or blocks something that you would see otherwise, but they are natural. They don't affect the FOM. So if a spec allows a certain number of black spots of a certain size and certain zones within that circle, then they're perfectly acceptable.
And see, that's noticed throughout the military, just always changing hands and night vision, things like that. I've always noticed it's kind of just been like expected to have.
Sure.
And it's very minor. I've seen it kind of on the outer ring and things like that. So you're saying if it's more, you said certain zones. So if it was within a certain zone, it would obviously get rejected.
So imagine looking through that circle of the tube and envisioning it like a target. And so if you had something in the 10 ring and it was a big spot, that would be a real negative. But if you had it kind of over on the edge and it was smaller, not that big of a deal. Now, you can get completely clean image intensification tubes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're high FOM.
Gotcha.
So that's the important distinction.
So you're looking for one or the other in the sense. Like, so you could sit there and say, I don't want anything in the tube, but you could sacrifice your FOM.
Exactly.
Okay. Great.
So that's an important thing for a consumer. If they're in a store, they see a higher FOM rated product that has some black spots, they see a lower FOM rated product that doesn't, don't necessarily assume no black spots is better. And don't confuse black spots with burn marks. Two drastically different things. Burn marks are a sign of damage, exposure to light, even IR light. So you can get lines across it from like force on force with lasers. You can just from being outside or being in a highlight environment, you can actually damage the tube.
Now, I remember you telling me too. Also, you've had instances where, in conjunction, using behind red dots and having the whatever dot or reticle too bright can also etch into the tube.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when we're talking image intensification, the reason it's image intensification is because the tube, the magic that it's doing in there is actually taking electrons and adding more electrons to the light. So it's intensifying the light.
Okay.
And there's technologies built into different systems. One of them called auto gating. And so auto gating is a feature that protects the tube kind of from highlight.
Okay.
And everyone, well, I hope everyone by now has seen Silence of the Lambs. The last scene in Silence of the Lambs where he's got the night vision on and she kicks on the light and it blinds him. Auto gating prevents that from happening, but it's also protecting the tube from itself.
Okay.
Or protecting the tube from too high a light and from damaging itself. It does reduce halo, it reduces blooming, different things like that. So it makes the system perform better just by being in there.
Okay, great.
And so another good option to have in there. Some of your lower end systems may not have that in those tubes. The other thing about the tube is there are filmed or thin filmed versus unfilmed tubes. Unfilmed allows for a higher FOM rating. So I believe that an unfilmed tube is better. They do make some really good quality filmed and thin film tubes, which are usually a little less expensive.
Yeah.
There's some argument out there as to which is more durable because the unfilmed tube, which the film is really a feature that would protect that tube as well, protect the micro channel plate within the tube.
Gotcha.
And so if that film's not there, when it's built, they're in close proximity to the micro channel plate.
Okay.
And so under dropping any kind of blunt force or recoil even, that film could flex and touch the micro channel plate and cause the tube to be damaged with recoil damage. If that film's not there, that's a lot harder to do. So in my mind, an unfilmed tube is a lot more durable tube. It's also the choice. A lot of military units go to an unfilmed.
So I noticed that was some of the options, some of the features you guys, as far as some of those products are mentioned that they're unfilmed. And like I said, that makes a lot of sense. And I've known, like I said, I've sat through this class many times. And,
boring.
Well, it's not boring, but in the sense of like, he's been doing it for so long, and and I'm even sitting here right now, and you're probably thinking all these mathematical equations going in my head, and I'm just like, yeah, but
you can see them in the bubble.
You can see them. You can see them. They're up in the cloud. But this is some of the information that commonly, because we get asked these questions a lot too, in the sense, or even on the training side or other individuals. So it's just good knowledge to know. I know, like I said, there's a lot of different night vision vendors out there, and just like you see, you read the specs and what type of tubes in there and some of those ratings that they put in there. It's just also good to know because I think a lot of that information is out there, and some people will ask for what the rating is, knowing that certain type of rating is good, but what is the actual, like, what does that rating mean? Just like I said. So
exactly, and you get on internet forums and you're going to see everybody advocating for everything. Everyone's got an opinion, and everyone's trying to put that opinion forth. And some things are facts and some things are subjective. So like one of those things is there's been a recent shift or big shift towards white phosphor versus green phosphor. So anybody that thinks about night vision that hasn't been around it recently will probably envision it being green. The phosphor screen that's inside that night vision tube, it can really be made any color, I suppose, but green and white, historically green was used because the human eye does really well with the color green. There's obviously more green in our natural environment. We evolved seeing more green all the time, so you see more tones or more shades of green than you do any other color. It's just really natural for your eye. But recently, and I say recently, we're talking a decade as it's evolved, but white phosphor has been found to be a little crisper, a little clearer, work better with shadows, work better with shapes, and cause less eye fatigue. So the white phosphor seems more natural to a lot of people, and it also doesn't tire your eye as much. And from what I understand, part of that has to do with the way the different colors of light engage the rods and cones in your eyes. So, but white phosphor has been a huge shift within the military, and I think this is kind of the future to stay with white.
Yeah, and I've seen the transition. Obviously, when I grew up in the military, it was all green. Just looking through that green tube and falling asleep.
Eyes hurting,
itching, things like that. Adjusting to a 14, things like that. But it makes a lot of sense what you're saying as far as the white, because just being so used to that green and then putting a white up there. But that's another thing too, is that some people, even if you find a green tube or anything else like that on there, it's still in a sense, it's still going to work. It's still going to do its job.
Absolutely. That's a personal preference thing a lot, you know.
Exactly.
And you may find a really high FOM green tube. Some people may prefer green. Green may be less money, just depending on the manufacturer and where you get it from. And then you can kind of go into this different systems, and there are a couple of like key single tube systems out there. The PVS 14 is kind of a generic name for a lot of different monoculars or single tube systems. And you'll see these in different configurations with different power sources and stuff like that. This is a spec, a military specification 14. Not that there haven't been others, but it's a single AA battery. It has a manual gain control. On/off, has a small IR illuminator built into it.
Okay, right there.
Really, that's good for navigation, walking, maybe reading a map, something like that. But it's not really good for looking off into the distance. Not a very powerful IR light. And so it has a objective focus and a diopter focus. So for uncorrected vision, stuff like that, the diopter is great.
Yeah.
One of the newer systems, this PVS 31 in a dual tube system, doesn't have that diopter focus. It has interchangeable diopters you can get for the back end, for the diopter side.
Okay.
But each objective end is focusable. Again, it has a manual gain. Instead of a twist on, it's a one touch on. The PVS 15s are still out there. This was actually a replacement on that for that PVS 15.
So was the idea of not having the manual already come with it? Was that like weight savings or?
Since this was designed for a contract, they figured that most operators at this level with this goggle were already correcting their vision either through contacts, LASIK, glasses in their eye pro. So they didn't need that diopter focus nearly as much.
Okay.
Really good depth of field, really good field of view as far as 40 degrees goes. That's the interesting thing. So if you have a monocular, you get a 40-degree field of view out of it. If you have a binocular, since there's two tubes, you still get a 40-degree field of view.
It's just a bigger circle, right?
Right. You're just you're covering both eyes, which helps you with depth perception.
Yeah.
So because of parallax, if you only cover a single eye, and everybody can test this at home, if you don't know what the basic parallax is, put your thumb out in front of you, close one eye, and watch your thumb jump back and forth. Yeah. That's parallax essentially. Since your eyes are separated, that's how we see depth and distance. And so if you're only using one eye in the dark, then you lose a good portion of that. But if you use both eyes, you pay twice as much, but you get to see depth a little better.
You're not going to fall.
Not that you can't adjust to a monocular.
Plus, if you want to go back the old way, you can just flip it over.
Exactly, it's versatile. Yeah, for sure.
This is too scary.
So tons of good systems out there, though. Bunch of different manufacturers. And so do your research on your tubes, do your research on your systems and your system features. Like I said, these have manual gain. There is a feature out there called auto brightness control, where the system detects the ambient light and adjusts the brightness to what it thinks you need. And some guys like that, some guys don't. Yeah. When you include things like the IR illuminator in this, of course, you're adding weight. You want to look at stuff like weight, power source, mounting options, different stuff like that when you're selecting a system. And then when you go to a clip-on piece, you kind of look at your weapon system, make sure you have some rail forward of your day optic, make sure your day optic's not overpowered, and decide what you can afford and what you want, especially weight-wise, and then all that other stuff with the tube applies.
So I'm assuming if you're buying this to ensure they have a good, nice set of glass behind it.
Right. You want to put some good glass on the rifle. You want to make sure that you're not adding like built-in MOA to the rails, to where this would be at a different angle than your day optic. If you had built-in MOA on your receiver, but then your mount for the night vision piece didn't, then you would have some zero shift. Obviously, clipping this on in front of your day optic and kicking it on, they can't guarantee 100% you will have zero. Have no zero shift.
But having directly aligned is going to keep it from minimal.
You want it as aligned as possible. And like on this one, there will be on any system there will be a specification. This one I think is plus or minus 3/4 MRAD. So you're not getting a huge shift, and if you do, it should be consistent as long as you're mounting it the same every time, and you're working with a good weapon platform.
Easy day.
Yeah, man.
That's good stuff. So is there anything? Obviously, you want to tell individuals out there when they're looking to buy night vision. Obviously, you've already discussed the FOM, but is there any kind of warning signs or anything else like that for the consumer, when they're looking at, especially when they're looking, different brands or anything used or something like that? Because, a lot of people that market's out there too. So is there any kind of warning signs?
For sure. You know, you want to make sure if you're going to buy anything, you want to lay hands on it first, unless it's coming from a reputable manufacturer.
Yeah.
You can kind of use your own judgment on where it's made. I mean, obviously, I'm a big, huge fan of Made in the USA.
Yeah.
Whether that be the tube or the system itself.
Gotcha.
You want to buy it from someone who has been in business for a while, someone who knows going to be in business for a while. I'm not bashing eBay or anything like that. Maybe there's deals on there, but it may not. If you're not getting it from a good retailer on there, you risk getting a kind of cobbled together mom and pop piece. And some pieces are easier to do that with than others are. But how are they sourcing those tubes? What kind of quality control processes do they have?
True.
Is it environmentally tested to where it's going to be waterproof, dustproof?
Gotcha.
Like this piece here from a certain manufacturer, we could take this, and if we got it a little dusty driving around tonight, we could run it under the sink and just rinse it off, dry it off, and it's going to be fine because it's waterproof.
Gotcha.
This piece is waterproof to 66 feet for 2 hours. And stuff like that a consumer may not need. If it's a law enforcement agency looking at it, they may look at stricter environmental testing.
Yeah.
Quality control processes within the manufacturing facility, things like ISO certification for quality control.
Gotcha.
If you're going to buy a piece that was built for a military contract, does that manufacturer have good past performance with the military? All that's information that you can easily look up and find out what's available to you, because there will be some systems that a consumer can't buy that a law enforcement agency can.
Yeah.
So
it just kind of seems like if there's something on that side of market, some other company will kind of pick that up and do something similar to it, as far as make that available.
That's absolutely true.
Man, it's a lot of good info, and that's the whole thing. I mean, out there, this stuff is expensive, obviously, and but that's the whole thing. If it just pays off to do your due diligence, do all this research and everything else like that, and look for those good quality, just like you mentioned earlier, to make sure you get a good purchase and don't waste your money or be unhappy with the product you have, or your expectations get crushed.
And find a good dealer, ask questions, and if that dealer can't answer those questions, walk out. I mean, there's stuff that really kind of flies in the face of whether it's a lie or misleading or whatever. And if a retailer's doing that to you, then you already know not to trust them, and why are you going to make a big expenditure with them? So find somebody that knows what they're talking about, or that can put you in touch with somebody that knows what they're talking about, and make sure you're getting what you're paying for.
So what are some other terms out there that people tend to use? Because I've heard multiple ones.
Well, one of the super interesting things to us, or to me, is that we would see Gen 4 all the time.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is there is no Gen 4,
yeah.
right? So the closest thing that's ever existed to Gen 4 was a company, the company that developed the unfilmed technology.
Yeah.
Night Vision Labs with the U.S. Army had decided, hell, this is so good, this is Gen 4 for a little while. And then they're like, well, there's a lot of manufacturing issues, and there's no other competition. We can't get the volume we want, so let's tap the brakes on it being Gen 4.
Yeah.
And so if you hear somebody saying, hey, no, this is a Gen 4 piece, like, no, it's not.
It's not, yeah.
You're already lying to me, so where we go from here.
Gotcha.
Stuff like that, just overinflated stuff. If they're trying to, make a silk purse out of a sow's ear by putting it in nice packaging and doing all kinds of weird stuff with it, sometimes that, something's too good to be true. They're just trying to dress it up.
Exactly, yeah. So, it's all scary behind the stuff. That's why, always reach out to the experts here, and he's always given it to me straight as far as what's a good device and what's not a good device. And over the years, just going hunting, using them out, having fun hog hunting at night and things like that. Yeah. So you really do see the difference in a good piece or, really low-end piece. And then plus topping accessories, which is another discussion we're going to get into on the next part of the series. Is we're going to talk about accessories and some of the stuff that can be used in application with these devices that will help, that's beneficial, and also all the other cool attachments and the other accessories that come with this stuff.
Yeah, a tube can only intensify the light that it has available. So what you got to do is add infrared light, or go to an operating environment where it has more light. So that's what we'll talk about next time. We'll start talking about lasers, and infrared lasers, and illumination devices, and other stuff you can do to make the system work better. But obviously, the higher quality system that you buy in the first place, the better it can do with less light, the better detection range you have on objects and stuff. So yeah, we'll get in the weeds on some accessories too.
All right, brother. Sounds
Cool.
good. Well, hey, thanks everyone for tuning in. Appreciate you all the support. Big shout out and thanks to James Miksch here for coming to the shop. We had to entice him with a bunch of whiskey and you know, to help us do this video. As usual, I almost steak dinner too. But yeah, it's like I said, we just wanted to get as much information out there. These are some of the products that you know, it kind of goes hand in hand with some of the applications when it comes to firearms and things like that. But for the most part, appreciate everybody's support. Like and subscribe, share this video. If you have anybody else that's interested in night vision or, you know, needs this kind of, or looking to buy, it's just kind of helpful information. And that's about it. So thanks for tuning in.